let's talk a little bit about the Geno Stone situation here. Okay, so Geno Stone signed as a free agent, obviously under 2-year contract, and he had 1 year left. He takes a signed restructured deal for a $1.6 million pay cut for this year, the final year of his deal, that takes it down to essentially a 1 year, $4.9 million deal. You know what, a 20-ish% shave is basically whatever that amounts to by my Ohio University math. But you end up in a situation where they asked Geno Stone to take this pay cut. He does. And it didn't sit right with me, Jay. This doesn't sit right with me. Because here's the thing. He kind of was suggesting with us, like, oh, I assume that they're trying to move some money around to try to get Trey done and figure that out. And I want to be a team player. And Geno said all the right things. And we'll play you some of what he said in a minute. And I want to get to that. But here's what doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't mesh. If you thought so lowly of Geno Stone, and Geno Stone played poorly last year. Like, no one would have a problem if they were like, we moved on from Geno and went a different direction. There was a long time where I thought that was maybe going to be the case. But if you thought so lowly of him to force him into a pay cut, how did you not sign anybody in free agency? How did you not draft a safety with any kind of challenge? So either that is wrong, or this feels a little personal. You just said, oh, we're just going to take this 1.6 out of you because we can. Because we don't think you play as well. And we're going to come get that from the deal that we made last year. And there are a million ways that you could find $1.6 million in cash or cap that you need if you're trying to move money around or get something done with Hendrickson. You're going to take a player that you have now said, hey, we're behind you, Geno. We didn't draft anybody. We didn't sign any free agents. We are here to support you. You're going to be our guy next to Jordan Battle. We got a plan and a vision for you. Oh, by the way, could you take that pay cut? We want to take a little bit of that money back. We don't like that. Like, it just doesn't, in the big picture for me, that doesn't sit well. That doesn't make sense. What you gain in your minuscule, less than 1% of the salary cap in that money to mentally just like cut a guy you're trying to rebuild confidence in out the legs. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I was confused when it happened too. I didn't go from that angle where it's disrespectful to Geno. I was just curious, it's such a small amount. Why? What leverage are they gaining out of this? Like, I guess that's the big question. And I probably should have asked Geno this when we talked to him yesterday. When did this happen? I mean, it was announced yesterday, but it came about weird. It wasn't a national reporter breaking the news after the agent tells him. It was Jason from Over the Cap, and maybe the new contract got submitted to them and he went to post it, and that's how it came out. Because and you ask him the question, you'll hear this when we play the clip from Geno, he could have said no. And if they approached him about this pay cut recently since the draft, well, I mean, what are you getting at? He could easily say no because you didn't draft the safety. You didn't sign one in free agency. And he played it off where he said it gave him up 1.5 million guaranteed this year. And he didn't have guaranteed money this year. Well, your contract's guaranteed. They didn't sign anybody. They didn't draft anybody. They're not going to cut you. Maybe you lose your starting job, but they're not going to cut you and save all that money. So it was a weird situation all the way around. And I guess finding out the timing of when they approached him about this might clear a little bit more of it up, but I'm with you. At first I thought it was odd, and then I didn't like the optics of it after you brought that up.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. Let's bring a little bit of the conversation with Geno, because in the locker room, Geno did stand up with a small gaggle of reporters for a while.
15 minutes at least, yeah.
Yeah, and was very kind of open about his situation, what happened, and things like that. Here's about 2 minutes of that situation.
Does it feel like they're putting their faith in you? Do you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing. When I sat down with them, they kind of. I told them I want to embrace that leader role in the room, and we had a long talk, and that's kind of what they told me, that I got to be that guy this year to, lift the whole group up and, just be who I was before. So that's kind of what I want to do. I told Chuck when I first got here, I said I got that 7th round mentality again. It's not like I lost or nothing like that. I just feel like I didn't want to say I got too comfortable, but at the same time, I want to make sure I'm day in day out competing and work my butt off and making sure that everyone else is better around me.
That long meeting you were talking about, was that the exit meeting right after the season, or was that when you said the combine?
No, it's kind of when I came back here. I checked in. I checked in after the combine. I came back here, sat down with some of the coaches and stuff like that. So that's kind of when I was able to sit down with them and have that meeting, that talk and stuff like that. I want to sit down with Al. Basically it was like me getting my tackling angles, things like that. And I agree with that. I agree with that too. I got put in a situation where last year where I didn't have the best pursuit angles, things like that. So that's something I want to work on as much as I can, get as many reps as I can now and during the season, during like camp and stuff. So that's my main emphasis this year is get better day in day out each week.
How do you improve that? How do you improve angles?
It's the reps and the repetitions, things like that. They got a lot of drills. Al's been putting a lot of drills right now. We're doing a lot of tackle stations and things like that. So that's the main thing you got to do is make sure you get the repetition.
Is it hard to not take it personal when your employer asks you to take a pay cut?
Yeah, a little bit. At the end of the day, it's business. This is a business, and they're trying to do what's best for the team, and I understand that as well. And I want to do what's best for the team too. That's able to get Trey back or whoever to get here signed. I'm gonna do it. At the end of the day, it's business. That's what it is in the league.
Are you inferring that's why they did that, or did they tell you?
End of the day, if you're taking a pay cut, they're trying to clear spaces for a reason. So I don't know what they're doing. They never told me. I didn't ask. End of the day, they're doing what they do best for the team.
Do you consider telling them no? I'm not going
to? It was a consideration. It was, but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I did the best for the team.
Yeah, it was consideration. I bet it was.
Yeah.
I bet it was. No, kick rocks.
Thanks, but no thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you signed me to a contract and you don't have any other options. Is Dejon Anthony taking my place? No, great. Maybe they held Justin Simmons over his head. Maybe they're like, look, Justin Simmons is online too. And we'll call him. He also missed a lot of tackles last year. But we don't care. We can bring him into the system, or maybe one of these other available safeties. Maybe they use that to try to get his number down, and said, "Look, we're going to pay a safety $5 million next year, whether it's you or somebody else." Mm-hmm. Maybe they did that, and I don't know. I don't really like that either. Like, I get it. You know what? It is a business, and I know Bengals fans are like, "Wait, we don't like Geno Stone, right? Like I don't like Geno Stone, so I don't care if they take it. I don't like coming back after somebody's money. It feels personal at 1.6. I'd rather you came for 4. Come for 5. Like when Joe Mixon, right? He had a pay cut that he took. He had situations that he was in off the field. A lot of people weren't happy with some of his stuff on the field. But it was a big number they had to get down. You're talking like $5 million pay cut. That's where it makes more sense. This it's so small. Right. There's so many other ways to find or make that money up if that's really what it's about. And if, by the way, if $1.6 million is the difference between you and Trey Hendrickson, what the hell's happening right now?
Right.
What is happening? So I just all of it doesn't really sit super well with me.
Yeah, in the 1.6, it kind of, I don't know their plan, but because we've talked about we've talked about the idea of them cutting Cordell Volson and saving, 3.6, sure. 3.7. So that gets you about half that, because you're not going to do that right now with Cordell. You're going to give him a shot in training camp and see what he can do under Scott Peters. And so maybe if there is something going on where the Jermaine Pratt deal is going to, cutting him and that savings is going to come in, if there is something they want to do more immediate with that money, it maybe doing that instead of waiting on Cordell. But again, it's just 1.6. It feels like it's more about a message than it is about math.
If you needed the money, remember when we talked about how much they didn't get in the way that they did the Jamar and the T deals, or any number of restructures you could do if you really wanted to, or you could just call Joe and be like, "Hey, Joe, I know it sounds loud in the background there. Where are you at? After party? Okay. Can we have 1.6? Yeah, sounds good, right? Like, I just feel like it's just all of that I didn't super like. But there's other parts of this. And by the way, there's no update on Trey Hendrickson's situation right now. Oh, wait, I can't, miss an opportunity. We got to make sure.
Like sand through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Yeah, make sure we always get this in. No update on the Trays of Our Lives situation right now. For all this talk of, moving. Look, they're moving money around. Zach Moss, Geno Stone, the Pratt trade or cut is going to happen soon, right? It's going to happen soon. They just think they're just poking around a little bit on trades a little longer and seeing what they could do. That money coming up. So, there's a possibility. I do think there's still some hope there, but there's no updates. Nothing's happening. So that kind of sits there too. So if you're thinking that, that means something's imminent, that doesn't feel that way right now. It feels like two sides staring at each other, wondering who's going to blink. And so we'll just keep playing the music as we do that. All right. But another part of this conversation that came out was some of the stuff, and this piggybacks off of some conversations that we had last week. And that was with Logan Wilson and a number of defenders about Al Golden and the change and what really happened last year and why what Al's going to do this year can be a solution and simplicity. And you hear Gino talking about, quote, I got put in a situation where, tackling whatever. And this came off last week. Logan Wilson was talking about, there comes a point where it's just too much in terms of some of the complexities of what they were doing, and guys were confused, and it just needed to be simpler and no gray. Lots of talk about no gray, black and white. Everything needs to be clear, simpler. What we heard about the last 5 games last season, and seems to be almost not solely, but in a large part, what they are banking on right now will be the difference for all of these young players is being able to play fast due to simplicity and no gray. I thought about not even wearing gray today because it's too confusing for everyone, but I'm in my gray.
I mean, we've talked about it. Lou has talked about it, about how much he doesn't want to play youngsters. And I think that's a big reason why. It's not because they can't play. It's because they can't grasp all the complexities and all the if this, then that stuff that goes on within a play. And so, because we heard Gino say it there on the clip we played, and he said it one other time earlier in the conversation about I got put in a position, and then he like quickly kind of backed away. Is like, and it's all on me. I'm not putting it on anybody else, but I do think that was a big part of it, was the whole scheme that Lou was running, and too stubborn to get out of it. And then when he finally did get out of it and simplify it, they played some weaker offenses, but you saw the defense play better. And you're right. I think that is what they're banking on, because they are banking on a lot of young guys. So not just making it simple for simple's sake, but making it easier for these young guys to get in. And then maybe once they start excelling, you can start adding some more things in and being a little more complex. But like you said, it was things people were talking about last year toward as they were winning and going down the stretch, and it has just continued on into this offseason with Logan last week and then Gino yesterday. Yeah,
the full scapegoating, and I think it is makes sense where everyone's kind of trying to explain what happened. And obviously, it was awful. It looked awful on the field. Imagine how bad it looked behind the scenes and in the film room and in those meeting rooms. And I think you're seeing that a little more comfort in discussing that happening right now. The line stuck out to me from Gino, I'd never been in a scheme like that, talking about one that had so much complexity. And I think he felt like he wasn't able to kind of play like himself. So they have a vision for him, and that vision involves him taking a pay cut and being here as their starting safety. But we believe in you for 20% less. And so that's where that's at.